Hello AI friends, welcome to the AI podcast. My name is Patrick and I brought my data team here from epilot with me. So AI, it's super hyped everywhere. I hear it like on LinkedIn, in my email inbox, but the only use case I recently had is Karim building the AI chatbot for my Tinder profile. So what do you think, Karim? Is it the hype? Is it something sustainable?
For 2 years after OpenAI released ChatGPT, like people are now knows what can AI do, and that's I believe that's why it's so hyped right now.
Thank you. So maybe to you, Suresh, you as the principal engineer here, leading the data team and having the clear vision about, hey, where do we actually want to go with data? How can we make use of AI actually in order to, boost also our data here at epilot?
Yeah. That's an interesting challenge we have, especially after, moving away from our legacy software, now that, with the flexible 360, we have, the data, rich data from the energy industry, with, the top customers, from Germany. And one of the things is, how we can harmonize those data and, add value to the customers. I would see this as, two approach. One is, let's say, providing insights out of data. It could be for the operational purposes or for the analytical purposes. So if we think about analytical things, so it could be for boosting their KPI metrics, sales revenues, or all the other things which could increase their business rate, or find where they can improve on. And the operational would be how they can make use of the intelligence in their day-to-day work. One of the things as Karim said, making use of the data we have and giving them the ability to summarize the email threads, or giving them the next actionable items, what should be done on the platform for the executing users. So these are some of the things where I see the AI could really create an impact, and that's what we are pivoting. That's the direction we are pivoting. And more interestingly, the challenge for us is with the flexible data we have, how we can correlate every single of them and create the meaningful insights for the whole energy industry, to create actionable insights. So
Thank you very much for the intro. Karen, you want to add something?
In your daily life, do you use AI?
Of course. Unfortunately, I couldn't use it for the Tinder bot. I'm already engaged. My boss will kick me out of my house if I do that. But I would use it for my the AI at my work day to day, especially the Copilot, which helps a lot in writing the code, and there are other places as well for the personal well-being as well, right? So I have some apps which makes use of AI day to day for getting me the actionable results. So
I have to say, in the area where I work, right, in the product management, of course I tried a bit of different AI models, but I'm not really satisfied. And I'm wondering, when comes the time when I think, hey, this really helps me in my daily work, I don't know, scheduling my calendar, or maybe summarizing every meeting I had with my customers or with you guys, so I don't need to write down all the action items, things like that. So maybe diving a bit deeper into the technical challenges, Karim, what do you think, where do we see currently kind of some challenges in the AI space? And what are kind of the trends you see currently? Also during the AI POC, maybe you can also guide us through there a bit.
Yeah, the challenges is it was find the best match in the Tinder.
Yeah, indeed.
The challenges are initially the context windows of the LLMs was really small. So you could only use maybe 100 sentences or 100 words. Mm-hmm. But by time now context windows are getting bigger. But for some LLMs, even Google now released Gemini, and it has 2 million tokens of context window. But in some LLMs, it's still smaller. And this is a challenge if you have lots of data and you need to do some analyze or you need to generate some reports, you need to enrich your prompt with your data or do some few-shot prompting, apply this kind of best practices. But when it comes to like smaller context windows, we apply RAG, retrieval augmented generation. We overcome this kind of issues with this approach. And in epilot, we are leveraging from AWS knowledge base and Bedrock to execute our POC. Yeah.
Thank you very much. Suresh, maybe follow-up question for you regarding this topic. Maybe you can explain a bit why we're using AWS, why you're not using, as everyone does, OpenAI, like ChatGPT.
Getting into that question, like adding to the Kerem's point, like it's not just about like, developing something with AI, but also like assessing the quality of AI, right? So we could develop something, but like, shipping it as a like feature or like, thing to the customers, which could be used by them, and like, adding a value that needs like, that has like different challenges to it, like especially how you can assess the reliability. So especially in the critical industries like healthcare, finance, where like, the decisions made by the AI are like, going to create a significant impact, like, and other things like, ensuring the like, fairness and bias free like results. So that's like, really dependent on like how you use the training data and like which one do you use. So that's really important as well. And also like the continuous like, regulatory checks, so to be more compliant, right? So AI, it evolved over the period of time as you use the feature or the platform, and like there has to be like a constant check, like, in the live environment. So these are some of the challenges like we need to consider while defining the boundaries and everything, like, the scope for like, what use case we are developing with the help of Gen AI, especially with LLM models, like, that's one thing. And also like as you asked, right, so why are we not like going with like, OpenAI specific GPT models, and like rather we go with Bedrock. So Bedrock is an interesting technology, like, as we have the principle, like, rent over build, like we are fully serverless. So we don't really run like, a bunch of EC2 machines to run LLMs, like to power our use cases. So AWS gives out of the box, like here with the Bedrock, like they have like, couple of LLM models, like the open source ones, like, which we could like, get it running, up and running, and like we can make use of it for our like, future use cases. So that's why we don't want to be vendor locked, rather like we decide which model we need to use for like, which feature, like, that is the reason why we take this approach. So it's actually giving us results in the POC already. So
Thank you. Yeah, maybe Kerem, you can add a bit more about which different models do we currently assess and what outcomes do we actually already saw in the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, we are experimenting with anthropic models, which are Claude 3, and we also tested Claude 2.1. And as far as I know, we also tried Claude Instant model. It seems like Claude 3 is really good, performing well. Also, when it comes to pricing, there is like differences between the models as well. We also evaluate and see which suits the best for our use cases.
So maybe you can talk about the use case itself, so that everyone is aware of what we actually do currently with the very first touch points in GenAI for epilot.
Yeah. First of all, we wanted to build something with AI, but we did a lot of brainstorming sessions to decide which use case should we execute first, right? Then we chose messaging use case because that was the most used feature in our system, right? Now, what we currently building is we got a funding from AWS. We work with a partner. We are using Bedrock, and we are building a feature which we will integrate into epilot 360 messaging platform. And basically the features are we will generate suggestions, we will generate summaries for the email threads, we will generate actionable next steps to provide to users. And like it's the first AI based feature in our platform, but like we will be still integrating AI more into our system.
All right, thanks. So Suresh, maybe you as a product engineer, or like everybody is a product engineer at epilot, by the way. What do you think are the very critical points where we need to be aware of when we introduce something like, very hyped, maybe overhyped AI feature at epilot?
I think it's about the priorities, right? Like what is the feature which is used most, and where it could be used, as Kerem was talking about the first use case with messaging. Even after the brainstorming sessions we discussed, we even spoke to a few customers, and we got the feedback what are the most used places, and where they could expect the improvements, and one of the things is we saw clear value that this would reduce the cost operations for them, and definitely make things easier, so which would eventually increase the it's a win-win situation for both the sides, as a platform for us with MRR and for them to get their job done easily. So I think that's how I kind of see, and for the epilot, next things I see is how we could harmonize the data, and what they could do, there could be hundreds of things they could do in the epilot platform, right, when they open their system in the morning, but it's us who needs to tell them okay, you have these many things pending, you just go to this task, this needs some attention, this is the next action item you should do, and this lead is in cold, and you could take care of this end customer, and this is hot lead, maybe you might need some attention to close this.
Yeah, maybe short follow-up on the data strategy here at epilot, as you're leading our data team. Currently we have moved from our old data warehouse to a new one, and maybe you can elaborate or explain to us a bit how can AI actually help us get to that goal to be actually, or not to be, to make the data accessible for every stakeholder in the market?
I think that's an interesting question, and especially one of the first steps to do something with data or AI is to first understand what data we have, what exactly we have, and to make that data accessible. Then we could think about okay, how we can use it and what we can do with that. So I think that's what we were doing, and earlier we had Redshift as a data warehouse. Now that we moved to a ClickHouse, so next step would be mostly on as we spoke about the energy market lake, which we wanted to build for the whole the energy industry, based on the data we have. There we could use the classifiers, traditional machine learning, classifiers or models, to better evaluate data from different customers, especially with the flexible data, let's take the one example, right, the wall box use case. So and one customer could have just wall box, and the name could be different for some other customers, and how we can correlate, it's always the end-to-end use case in the 360 platform, not one specific entity or one feature. So how we can take or correlate all the data related to wall box for all the tenants. So that's kind of the challenge, and I think that we could be achieved with the help of the machine learning models and the AI. So
very interesting. Thanks for the outlook. And I know, Kerem, you, besides the Tinder AI use case, you also have some things in your head, right? You want to test out kind of some more use cases also at epilot here.
Yep.
As you're leading the Gen AI POC topic.
Yep.
Maybe you can bring some examples also, and explain maybe what do you think are the next things we should do here at epilot.
I have actually crazy ideas to integrate into epilot 360 platform. I can share one of them. In every entities we have workflows, right? And every workflow has phases and tasks in it. So I'm thinking to integrate an AI solution which will solve the tasks automatically. So that will be really cool feature, because we are planning to reduce the work of the executing users, right? And I think it's gonna be game changer. What do you think about this?
Yeah, super interesting. I think if you ask me, we have on the one hand, like talking about AI, everybody thinks Gen AI is the only use case we have. Of course, in order to boost efficiency, right, to get rid of all these manually repetitive tasks for the executing users, we definitely need to make use of AI in every area of our platform. So we need to definitely understand where do our executing users spend all their time and why, and how can we reduce that time and maybe get rid of that task completely for them. That would be a game changer. And on the other hand, I see also predictive AI models. Honestly, I'm not too deep into the topic. Maybe Suresh, you can tell us a bit about that as well. Because where I see epilot, my vision is for the AI models not only to boost the efficiency and to reduce the manual work for our executing users, but also to tell them, hey, look, this is the most relevant task you should do right now. So what you said in the beginning, right? Next best actions, or give them some predictions on revenue. What is your forecast maybe for the next quarter? How high is the probability that these guys churn, like your customer could churn? Or anything, right? How to prioritize your leads, what to do next with your time, because now we don't have the manual task anymore. People will have more time, and now it gets all to the point or the question: what should I do and why?
I think that's what I was talking earlier, in terms of operational and analytical sides, right? So when it comes to operational, that includes what is the best next actionable items the people should do, and that's where we are going to make use of the, as you said, the predictive AI models, and also the Gen AI, wherever it applies. So to give us a bit more hang of the landing page at 360 should power that, so customers will not have that the hurdle of jumping between different pages and to find what they wanted to do. Rather they will have a single overview to get started with their work, and also to better plan their stuff, to not lose any context. That's one thing. And also for the analytical things, we make use of traditional machine learning models to give them the relevant insights, right? So that's one of the real important metric for the businesses, how much revenue did you make, money, MRR, that matters a lot. So I think that's one thing we would also make it available. We already have a dashboard which powers it, but how flexible it is, how better we could make it, you can make it interactive, you just type what is the revenue, compare the last quarter with this quarter and where I lack this. So instead of having a dedicated data team or a data scientist to answer these questions, you could interact with the AI model. There are a couple of solutions already, Vana AI, so which is open source project which converts natural language into a SQL query, and we could definitely train that on top of our schemas and give them the relevant insights or the KPI metrics for the natural questions they ask. So this would definitely reduce the amount of extra things they need to do, having a dedicated data team or people to get some insights out of the epilot data. So I think this is where it's going to be the game changer. So where a non-tech person principally fundamentally we are more of a no code low code platform, so this definitely fits our vision to enable them even more powerful with easy accessibility to data and insights. So yeah, that's a strategy here.
Super nice, thank you very much. So I think, all in all, a lot of very interesting topics ahead of us. I definitely, I'm super, bullish on the topics on the Gen AI, and I would love to see, our data lake we built in the last couple of years to actually provide it to the broad, broad mass audience, and to position ourselves as the market expert for the renewable energy market, and maybe even more. Let's see. Stay tuned, and thanks for listening.